Hello, today I'd like to talk about carrying the social weight. Sometimes you don't have ideal friends around you. Sometimes the relationships you have in your life are something that needs to be carried. What I mean by that is you have to inject manually excitement into it. Otherwise, there would not be any relationship at all. It's something you have to work for that to be a relationship. Naturally, there are friendships in which you don't have to do anything. Those I would call ideal friendships. But there are also friendships where there needs to be some work done for it to work. Example, family. Within a family, you have relatives with whom you don't necessarily get along, but you need to somehow change yourself a bit to sustain it because you want to retain stability. They are not replaceable. Or a newborn child. That is not to say I have a child myself now, but I think theoretically it definitely applies. A newborn child has no knowledge of the world and is completely dependent on its parent to tell them how the world works. And as such, the only agent bringing any action or bringing any ideas into the relationship between the baby and the parent is the parent himself. And in doing so, the parent carries this relationship. So this was only to introduce my concept of carrying a relationship. It's not my concept, I've heard it several times throughout my life, but I'm not sure exactly how you call it officially. Let's call it for now carrying the relationship. Now, if you have any relatives who are not exactly on the same wavelength as you are, if you have some friends or acquaintances who are rather depressed all the time, or they are not really lively, then it's your job to inject stuff into the relationship because they're not going to do it. It's not because they wouldn't want to do it, it's maybe they don't have the energy, they don't know how to. But as long as they want to be friends with you, then they are there, and if somebody is to introduce any extra excitement, they will be only happy. I think an ideal comparison will be with the newborn child, because newborn child doesn't know anything. They don't know the world is round, they don't know anything about society, so the only person they can rely on is the parent. So I think that it's important to recognize that with some people the relationship is to be carried. In an ideal friendship, not necessarily, but in a non-ideal relationship where somebody, let's say, agrees with you on, let's say, 30% of rightness of certain behaviors in society, and they are a different person in any other way, then with them you need to reach some sort of a compromise. And in doing so, you also carry the relationship. Now, why this is important? Because sometimes the person you're talking to, they would like to be more excitable, they would like to be more lively, but they can't. And in the same way, when you want to make your child happy, for example, you want to pretend that Santa during Christmas, you want to make their birthday a special day, it's all things which you manually create. Right? Without you, it will be just a regular day. It will be as if nothing's happening. But basically, in order to stimulate the child's happiness, you try to, get the tree. You can put the what's it called, decoration everywhere, sing songs, and it's basically something which you have to create in order to give the child a nice place to live in. Virtually, of course. And I think this is something which could be extended to any friendship in terms of understanding it. That with some people, they're never going to bring any excitement, so it's on you. It's only your job doing it. There are some other people who are nice people at core, but they have so many problems that will just talk and talk and talk, and they will never care about you or your problems. But there's no real exchange there, but they just need to talk to somebody. But at heart they're a good person, so you just keep them around. But it's still you carrying the weight. Now, There's also this thing with people I would call narcissists or partial narcissists, And what I mean by a narcissist as such is a person who's unable to admit that they wronged, that they erred. It's a person who thinks that whatever happens in the world, if it's not exactly what they want, is somebody else's fault. But definitely not theirs. And with such people, I think if you have a relationship with, you're always the one who's going to carry it. And I would say it's not exactly advisable. I mean, if you have tons of friends to choose from and some of them are narcissists, to my opinion at least, it's best to avoid these guys. But if they're nice people and you like them and you have some shared activities, I suppose it's fine. But in doing so, if you have a narcissist, it's basically like a baby. It's basically like a spoiled child. They are always used to getting what they want, and if they can't get it, they'll just go amok. They'll just throw a tantrum. So, in doing so, you also carry the relationship. Well, now I've been talking about carrying a relationship. Now, what does it mean? Well, of course, I'm no psychologist myself, so I can't really say, but I think that this gives you the decisive power. As long as the other person is a bit childish, is a bit immature, that you have to be the one who adapts to their insanity, if you will, then you have the whole steering rod of the relationship in your hand. You can do anything. Basically, it's up to you whether the relationship's going to go on or not. And basically, they can't do anything because all they can show is walk away, but in a way, you're the boss. Now, with familiar relationships, as in family relationships, I suppose it's up to you whether you want to stay friends with your parents or not. But I think that most people do, and it's very unlikely that parents are going to be of the same mind as you. So I think it's safe to say that most people, whenever they have a relationship with their parents, it's a relationship. If it's an honest relationship, an open relationship, then it's them who carry it, not the parents. And I think it's something which is omnipresent in the world, and definitely something worth mentioning. There's no advice in this. It's just something I think it's interesting to consider. So thanks for listening, and bye.